My name is Ann Matthews. I've lived on Herrontown Lane since 1996. We, the nearest neighbors who know this land the best, ask you to say no to this latest scheme. Why? 4 reasons. Reason 1, the proper reviews have not taken place. Last month, I sought advice from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service because over 24 threatened and endangered species are clearly living on both the Landwin Tract and the Herrontown Lane Association's adjoining private open space. The Fish and Wildlife people said, great, but you know, the threatened and endangered unit of the DEP never saw Landwin's current application, which is a real problem since, quote, the presence of these species should be a red flag to the DEP, unquote. For that reason alone, this rezoning application really should not be allowed to proceed. Reason 2 to reject it is the water problem. This is a very serious matter. The wetlands map submitted by Landwin is nearly 7 years out of date, as Will said. Since then, the water table in our section of Mount Lucas has become notably unstable. Herrontown Lane owners are being required by our insurance companies to put in sump pumps. We have standing water in our yards. We had to put in a whole new road at our expense due to water, as Will said, rising strongly up from below, which in 40 years has never happened before. If you allow this rezoning, there is an urgent need for major water remediation by the developer or by the town. 40 years ago, runoff from a hilltop housing site might have been acceptable because aerial photos from that time show that there was nothing around except mostly fields and mostly woodlands. But today, several thousand people live in the path of runoff from this property. Detention basins simply won't cut it, and lots of rock blasting through the gigantic boulder field that lies just under the surface, as the Stone Church people discovered to their sorrow. The whole 90 acres may be well worth preserving as public green space, as the master plan has urged for the last quarter century, once you clean up the industrial leavings and the pesticides, of course. But this property is not appropriate even for cluster development, especially not along the property's eastern end, adjacent to Herrontown Lane, where the rare old-growth forest and the endangered species habitat are concentrated. Reason 3 is that the proposed rezoning will permanently and gravely damage us, the nearest neighbors, in terms of quiet enjoyment and privacy, and for that reason, we must, if the current zoning is not upheld, we must have that 300-foot setback, a heavily treed barrier, light and noise control, and runoff remediation. You did that for Campbell Woods. Please do it for us. Finally, reason number 4 why we ask you to keep the current zoning is the human aspect. For years, I lived in this town as a single, low-income person without a car. It was exhausting, it was inconvenient, it was costly. And I was at the corner of Witherspoon and Spring Street. Easy access to the life of the town made up for a lot. But to force low-income citizens onto those 3 remote Landwin acres, that's pretty cold, especially as a device to shove in more McMansions at the other end of the property. And offer 21, maybe at most 33 isolated, car-dependent units. It's a ridiculously small number. The 4 acres at the end of McCaffrey's parking lot would give you 44 units perfectly placed. And the Housing Committee's excellent recent report pinpointed many potential affordable housing sites in Princeton, places where residents would feel welcome and included in our community. But to warehouse on these 3 Landwin acres, in simple decency, no. This is a zoning problem that needs more time, more thought, more research, more care, more public discussion, more transparency, more alternatives. It's better for the land. It's better for the neighbors. It's better for Princeton, all of Princeton. Until a wiser solution appears, let the current zoning stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?